Hello there, sorry from 17 once again. This is The Witcher 2 Dark Mode Difficulty video walkthrough. This is the second part of the prologue, and the mission is at the Fore/Barricade. And that is what you're about to watch. So, this is the first initiation to the game's combat system, and the combat system in the game is interesting to say the least. It's perfectly capable at times, but if you're looking for something deeper and responsive and intuitive and, you know, with quite a lot of depth, that's not what this game is. The closest I could compare it would be to like a Skyrim, which to me is kind of a bad thing, but I've learnt to understand the shortcomings and I've learnt to kind of exploit them to my own will. And when I first played the game, because this is my second playthrough that you're watching, I did the training first. I've never played a Witcher before. I've never really played a game like this one before. And I did the training, got my ass kicked, and the game recommended that I start on easy, which is how bad I did in the training. Because the game is got quite a steep learning curve at the beginning. And I ignored that, of course. I went straight onto dark difficulty, and I did find it challenging. But through that challenge and through that struggle, I learned a lot about the game. And that is my favourite part of games, the struggle, believe it or not, where I see my own improvements, and hopefully those improvements are going to help you not need to go through the struggle and get you to the end of the game, be it for personal use or for achievement purposes or trophies, however you want to do this game. But the first basic of combat is the swords. The steel sword is good against human foes. The silver sword is good against monsters. That is the paradigm that you must adhere to in this game, because if you don't, you're going to struggle. Hitting a human with a silver sword will do damage, but it will do nowhere near the same amount. Regardless of statistics, regardless of stats, the numbers don't matter. It's really just random numbers generated when it comes to hitting. All you have to know, silver monsters, steel men. The block that I just did then, is another confusing aspect of the game, because what will happen is you'll notice underneath my life bar there are two yellow bars that I'm using my magic spell that you just saw me use there, which is the one in the bottom left called Ard, because it makes Geralt super hard, and it's essentially force push. Well, when you have vigor bars and you block like this, you do not take damage. What will happen is the vigor will be substituted for the damage that you would have taken. When you don't have any vigor left, you will take scrape damage through your block. So The Witcher 2, not really a game about blocking. Although it can be done and it can be useful, it's not the block I would like. You know, I'm a fan of blocks, and this is a bad one for me. There's also a parry system and a riposte system, which personally is so slow and so specific that I don't think it's useful at all, except for in strictly one-on-one fights, or for getting the slightest amount of iframes that I think you get at the beginning of the riposte. But even then, this is a game that has very little iframes, so if you're used to an evade giving you tons of leniency when it comes to dodging moves, this game is going to surprise you every single time, because you must have 3 frames of invulnerability at the very beginning of your roll, and maybe you don't even have that. Like, I could probably go as far as to say that you might not have iframes, because the roll on this game gets me killed, or gets me hit, more importantly, so much more than perhaps any other game I've ever played. It's something you have to learn, you have to be aware of, and you have to treat it accordingly. And one of the worst parts of The Witcher 2 is you have to buy a better roll. You know, you have to level up, waste a ton of points in the training level area before you can get to the swordsman path, before you can get a better roll. And as soon as you get the better roll, the game gets a lot more manageable and a lot more fun. A couple of things to add as well. This is a PC game, and thus it has a lot of the tenets of PC games. One of them that's useful and also a thorn in your side is the saving system. This game employs an autosave, which is probably the laziest and worst autosave I have played in years, because it wants you to save manually. And if you're a PC gamer, you just press F4 or F5 or something like that, and it saves. There's no menus involved. Ding dang do. When you're a console gamer, you have to go to a menu and do it manually, and then it takes a while, and you pick your slot and blah blah blah. It's a pain in the ass. But if you don't do it, you will be at the mercy of those aforementioned extremely shitty autosaves. So The first piece of information is you can only save when the aura around your HUD is not red, because if it's red it means you're in danger and you're probably fighting. When it goes away, then you're able to go into your meditate menu, you're also able to save. And save you should. Save after every single victory, save after everything you do well, even save before battles or before you expect a battle. Save as much as you can. Be as paranoid as possible, because this is a game where I have replayed more content than there is content to play. Just because I'm not in the habit of autosaving, and on dark mode, you can die in a second. As we come up to this dude who looks a lot like an assassin from Assassin's Creed. I don't know if that's a little poking fun at Ubisoft or a little homage to Assassin's Creed, but I didn't see that on my first playthrough, so I thought I'd check it out. So when you come over to the Arbalist, over here, every time you do something on this machine, enemies are going to spawn. The positioning and enemies' types is random, but they're all going to be just the standard soldiers. The only soldiers you need to really worry about are the guys with the big swords and the guys with the shields. Those two are the ones that can be quite tricky, but as you've seen from my strategy on how to play, if you hit people with the Ard, it stuns them. And if you get a lucky stun which stuns them properly, you can instantly kill them with an execution move which goes into a canned animation. If you hit the shield guy here, on his shield you'll be bounced back and opened up to a massive counter attack, so be very careful. Best way to fight him, hit him from behind, or hit him with Ard and then hit him a few times, repeat ad nauseum. So the attacks. This game has an interesting combat system where there are light and heavy attacks. The light attacks are obviously faster, the heavy attacks are more damaging. What also happens though, depending on the type of weapon you're using, will depend on how your mobility is affected. If you're using a really heavy weapon, you can't do anything. If you're using a lighter weapon, you can do what I just did then, which is when you have a lock-on on an opponent and you're at some distance, if you press attack, usually it's a light attack, he will do a jumping attack towards the enemy. He will somehow cross the distance. And one of the best strategies of fighting, which is not, the most fun, but it's definitely the most effective, is the hit and run aspect of getting some distance, doing a jump attack, rolling away from the supposed retort. Oh, be careful. That right there was very close. Not too sure how he died then. It must have registered a strike very late. But, as I was saying, the easiest way to fight is to literally get some space, do a jumping in attack, roll away, get some space, jumping in attack, and just repeat ad nauseum. It's super effective, and it's going to work against a lot of things, because the game is cruel, guys. The game is really cruel. It's cheap as well. I don't know if it's a case of poor design, poor choice, or just poor testing, but you're going to be overwhelmed almost in every single fight, and Geralt will die in a crowd. If you have two people attacking you at the same time and you take those hits, you will die. If you have three, you'll super die. If you have four, you might as well just start wearing a cloak and carrying a scythe, because you're just death at that point. And also there's a critical modifier on you, which is your back. So if anything hits Geralt in the back, you're going to die, because it does massive damage. And the harder parts of this game are the beginning, because you don't have anything. For instance, the first chapter is kind of tough, because Geralt doesn't have many moves, he doesn't have many potential to get many moves, his weapons are kind of weak even when you get the good ones, and everybody else is still kind of tough. So the game stays challenging for almost its full duration, but it can definitely be gamed. And that's what you're going to be finding out on this sequence here. So I didn't realise at this point that there are archers above me. That's where everybody's going. They're doing the little casual walk to kill the archers up here. And archers are bad news. There is a skill that allows you to direct arrows back at them. There's also a skill that allows you to deflect them when you block, and if you don't purchase it, you can't do it. And a couple of moments in this guide, I'm going to make the silly mistake of assuming I can parry the arrows, and I can't, and I'm going to take damage for it and kind of panic. So my advice to you is either buy that upgrade or don't even bother trying to do what I'm about to try and do in those parts. Another thing that's really frustrating is your enemies and your foes will block your path. Combine this with the game's tendency to putting you in very small spaces to fight, and it means that evading is pointless, There's nothing really much you can do. You can block all you want, but you're eventually going to start taking damage, and you can physically be pinned in a room or up against a wall or behind things, and there's not much you can do because you die so fast. So situational awareness is key, and just knowing that there are certain bits of frustration that you're going to come across will definitely help. For instance, this fight here, your men are going to cock block you from attacking the enemies, and your men don't do much damage, so it's kind of like watching idiots fight. And the worst part is you can jump in to do an attack, try and roll away, and because Geralt has a really funny roll that's super animation heavy and gives you almost no invulnerability, you can roll in a bad direction or roll into a person and get clipped and stuck, and you'll take damage, and sometimes the damage is so severe you'll just die. Like the big guy there, the Lava-Lit Knight, if he hits me and he stuns me and someone else hits me, or I don't see him and he hits me from behind, he'll probably instantly kill me. But now that you've got rid of those guys, make sure you loot everything, pick up everything you can, and whenever it says you have too much weight on your character to move, make sure you drop things that you're going to be finding a lot of. The things I recommend dropping are the synthesis materials for crafting. Iron ores, so frequently everywhere and can be bought from almost everyone, you want to get rid of it. Timber is another one, very frequent, you want to get rid of it. And what's the other one? Like cloth. Cloth is a good one to get rid of, twine is a good one to get rid of. Essentially, you want to get rid of the ubiquitous materials so that you can, carry more shit to sell for more value. Like a good example here is you're going to be picking up a lot of swords. The swords themselves are not very good. And, oh, that was an arrow to the back, so that's the damage that the arrows do in my back. What's that, 1/4 of my life just there in one hit. And all of these are archers. So, when I said earlier that this game is cheap, this is what I meant. There are a lot of setups that are tricky. And a lot of them are weighted so heavily against you that it's very difficult to come out unscathed. But what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be luring people, I'm going to be killing the archers one by one. Something I've not mentioned that I need to is, did you see how I'm doing different attacks on that first hit? Sometimes I'll do the spinning jump, sometimes I'll do like the fucking figure skating, pirouetting attack that does more than one hit. Other times I'll do a roll where he does a spike, sometimes he does a jumping Superman stab. See if we can get some here when I fight these guys. No, we're getting the same one pretty consistently. There's the force push, I bloody love it. So good. Can we do a different one? There's a different one, like a little rapier thrust. Anything else? As I'm getting hit. There's the standard spinning one. Yeah, standard spinning one. Well, the point I'm trying to make is, you do not control what Geralt does. Those first hits are completely selected for you. Sometimes you'll do what he's doing now, the stupid pirouette. Sometimes you'll do the super simple poke. You have no control over it. It is the exact same as Batman games, the Arkham series, where Batman does what he wants, you just point him in the direction to do things. And the first hit of those jump attacks is always going to be random, and then the combos that you do afterwards are kind of similar depending on what buttons you press, because they do vary when you press them, but for the most, it gives you a feeling of not really being in control. Sometimes you'll feel like a badass, but you don't really know how you felt that way because you didn't dictate it. And it's a problem, because it's going to get you hurt, it's going to get you killed sometimes, other times it's going to save your ass, and it's a luck variable that I wish wasn't in the game, but it is, and there's nothing you can do, so you have to embrace it and learn to use it. Once you lead up here, you can use the speech here to convince him to surrender. You can also fight all of them, which is about 10 archers and the dude, which I don't recommend on dark mode. Jesus, is that a tough fight. Or you can tell him to fight you one-on-one, and whoever wins, the army surrenders to the defeated. Or to the victor, sorry. So here is Aryan Lava-Lit. He's got a shield. The easiest way to fight this guy is to wait for him to do his charge. A lot of enemies on this game do a charge, and what will happen is they'll charge directly past you, and then you can get behind them and generally spam them with a heavy attack until they die. Because getting behind an opponent on this game is so damaging. It's all about getting behind them. And if you can trap them, even better, because they can't move and you're getting free criticals for days. But once again, I'm using Ard, which is my favourite of the spells, the enchantments that the Witcher can use. A lot of people are going to recommend using Quen, which is a defensive spell, but anybody who's seen my guides in the past knows that I kind of hate being defensive. I hate just, you know, having a lot of life or tanking things. I like to fight, and I like to learn, so I'm going to be using Quen sparingly, probably for the dragon fight and nothing else. For everything else I'm going to use Ard and mix it up with some of the others maybe, but we'll see. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.